Welcome to the Point of View Show. My name's Andrew Tran. I'm your host. This show highlights business professionals in Asia and around the world to get an understanding on what makes them effective, how they do it, and advice to help you grow in leadership, branding, marketing, and sales. For more information, head over to my website, www.andrewtran.asia. Before we get into it, smash that subscribe button and click notifications whether or not you're listening or watching this. It helps me a ton and it helps other like-minded people find these episodes a lot easier. Now let's get on with the show. My next guest is Clarice Lin. She is a marketing strategist and an ROI doctor. She is from Singapore, but now is based in London, England. I won't say too much because she will introduce herself very shortly. So without further ado, give it up for Clarice Lin. Clarice, welcome to the show.
Hi, Andrew. I'm very excited to be on this show today.
Yeah, no, really excited to have you on board as well. For anybody who's watching or listening, just let everyone know, what do you do?
I'm a marketing strategist, which I call myself the ROI doctor. Reason for that is just I feel like in terms of marketing itself, and when you have like an investment in marketing, I like to transform it to see results in a way. Because what everybody sees marketing is more of a cost, whereas I see marketing is more of kind of you put something in and you're going to get something out in the end, and it's going to be tangible if you are able to measure it the right way. And that's what I feel is important. Marketing shouldn't be seen as something like, oh, it's a good to have. I feel that marketing is a must have and it should be ongoing. And this is what I help my clients to do. I help them to get on Google and YouTube page one.
Nice. Thank you for the introduction. For anyone who's watching or listening, you're actually coming in from the UK, is that correct? How long have you been over there for?
About coming to 11 years, I believe. Yeah.
What made you move over there?
And at that point in time, I thought it was more of like the grass would be greener on the other side, back then. Yeah, because I come from Singapore, and Singapore is a rather small city. I felt like there was more out in the world, and I wanted to get out there and see what's happening, meet different people from different culture, see what they're up to. Is it the same? Has what everyone is saying the same everywhere, or is there more out there to explore?
Nice. That's a good answer. Always searching for what's happening all around the world. So for anyone who's watching or listening today's episode, we're going to talk about marketing strategy. And Clarice, she focuses, like she said in her introduction, she kind of focuses a lot around trying to help brands kind of move to that page one on Google or YouTube. So we're going to dive a little bit on that SEO kind of element as well. But just as to start off with, Clarice, when it comes to your marketing campaign, is there a marketing campaign that kind of resonated with you recently?
Actually, I was thinking of this. I mean, like when we first talk about this question, I was thinking about this marketing campaign kind of like very long time ago when I was a kid watching on TV. If you remember, there was this Duracell battery with this rabbit, and then they were showing like how powerful this Duracell battery was, and then the rabbit was kind of moving along, and then they're just trying to explain how great the battery is using this little toy that was moving that needed a battery.
Yep.
And it kind of stuck with me for a long time, and I just noticed recently as well, they have just they have redone a little bit of that campaign that they did long time ago. And I feel like a lot of people will be able to associate it. Like when they see this rabbit they will just think about, oh, that's probably Duracell. And I think that's probably a very successful campaign because it helps people to think about the brand straight away. And I think that's what marketing is all about. Yeah,
100%. I think thinking back with regards to the Duracell Bunny and how compared against its competitors as well, and doing those kind of side-by-side comparisons and making it really easy yet fun, yet entertaining, and it kind of fits it all all those messages all in one within 30 seconds. Yeah, great stuff. Actually, that's a really good campaign example. So thank you so much. Hey, so jumping in right now, like you as a strategist, you consult with brands primarily in small businesses and stuff. When you talk to small businesses, what are some of the challenges they face that you see when it comes to marketing in itself for them?
One of the biggest challenge is that they feel that they are doing things on social media platforms and they don't really see the return on the results. And then they have some vague idea of Google and YouTube, but they're not doing anything and they don't really know how that works. That seems like a very complex piece for them. So they're just doing social media itself and they're just wondering like, okay, what else can I do on the social media platforms? And I think what I see from my perspective for them is that they don't realize that social media platforms can only bring you this far. And actually, getting on Google and YouTube is the best way forward for middle term and long term. Granted, you might not see the results straight away. You might not see like tomorrow someone's going to see your post on page 1, or you're not going to be on page 1 until like a couple of months later. But that's reliable, sustainable, budget-friendly over a long period of time.
Right. Do you find one of the big challenges when you talk to small businesses is expectation?
Oh yeah, yes. I think most people would assume automatically that they would see immediate success. And I feel like the most successful collaborations I have with my clients is when they understand the value of what I'm bringing and they're patient to see the results. And they know that I'm doing the best. So they might not see something like in 2 weeks' time, like, oh, I'm going to get 2 clients from this marketing thing. But if they are patient and they stay with me over at least 3 to 6 months or a year, and that's what I like to do. I like to work long term because we can actually see the results. Then I can show them, on Google Analytics that they are getting more traffic from Google or from YouTube, because most small businesses, they don't get any traffic, especially those who are not very familiar. So they might do some social media, but they're not getting like good traffic, search traffic, which is the most important. Is that most business owners, they don't realize there is a difference between people coming from search and people coming from social media platforms. And that's something that I try to educate them. And if they're with me, it makes for a successful collaboration.
Nice. That sounds really cool. So, if I'm a new client coming through, what do you typically, what's the typical consultation like?
Mm-hmm. So what we'll do is I will sit down with them and then we're going to understand the business. I would like to understand, for example, like how the business is doing, what are the marketing methods have they done, and then what are their results, what's their revenue. Because I feel that marketing shouldn't just be a standalone. Only if I know what's their current status, like if they're getting new clients, then we can actually see the impact of the results over long term. So this is something that I would like to do. And then as well, I like to understand what's the expectations. What do they want to see? Like, do they want to get 10 clients each month? Or, what's their product sales? Do they want to sell like 50 items? What's the average order value? Because then it would justify, in a way, it will help them justify the amount that they are kind of paying me for the effort to be able to translate into like a jump in revenue, maybe 2 times or like 3 times. Not in the next month, obviously, but they're going to be able to see this impact over like 6 to 12 months at least. And then going forward, if they decided like, okay, they're going to take a break from marketing, which I don't recommend, but then they will be kind of in a good place, if that makes sense, if they kind of continue what they do and they just do at least the basics, maybe not every tactical detail, but definitely the traffic is just going to continue coming.
Yeah, for anyone who's watching or listening, like that is a really good way of developing needs analysis. So if you're a budding entrepreneur and you're talking to another client or potential client or prospect, and you're trying to understand their needs and wants, how you just explain it is the perfect way to explain it. So thank you so much. I know people listening and watching this will get absolute gold from that as well. Like touching on to the next bit, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I would love for you to kind of talk about what are some of the tools that small or even large businesses can possibly use when it comes to, understanding, analyzing their rank, either on Google or YouTube, and identify some of the opportunities from that.
Yeah. So the number one tool I believe everyone should have is using Google Search Console. So that helps them to understand how they are performing on Google itself. So that's a tool you must have. Most businesses don't realize that, but then that's actually the number one tool they should have. And then having that, they should definitely complement that with Google Analytics, which is it helps to fit into the data, and then they will be able to see what potential customers are doing on their website. Are they reading that blog post? Do they go on to click on other things? Do they want to find out more about the small business? So are they signing up for that newsletter or something along those lines? So that helps to determine, like, if you're getting people to your website, are they doing those steps to potentially turn into a customer, Yeah, it's the same thing when you have like a physical shop and then you have a lot of people coming in, but nobody buys anything, and that's useless. You want people to browse through, show interest, pick something up, put it into their basket. So this is something that you want to see in your online website as well.
Right. And just touching on SEO for just 2 seconds, is there any like tools that you use, like SEM Rush or Moz or anything like that? Like, is there any tools that you use?
I use SEM Rush. So that's a really good tool. I've used that for competitors research as well, because you will be able to see straight away how your competitors are ranking on search, if they're getting certain search terms, and if you want to be ranking for that, how difficult it is to rank for those. So there's a good tool to identify different opportunities. Because let's say, for example, you have a competitor, excuse me, you have a competitor which has been around for a very long time. Obviously, they're going to get a lot of traffic. They're going to be ranked for many keywords. So you might think, oh, okay, maybe I can replicate like them. But if you're a small website, you can't go, you can't do the same thing immediately. However, you have to identify opportunities that less people are ranking for certain keywords, and then we can work around those, and then you can grow towards that direction. So that's a really good tool for that, definitely.
Nice. And, like a lot of people, they may have heard the word SEO, search engine optimization, for anyone that's watching or listening. They like the rudimentary thought about it is like, oh, okay, I have some keywords that I think I want my customers to be searching for. I'm just going to stuff it in when I create content, which nowadays is such a black hat move. What's happening? Like, do you know, or you'd be able to share like what's been happening over maybe the last 12 months when it comes to SEO that you've been able to advise some of your clients?
So definitely no keyword stuffing. For those who are, actually it depends. There are two types of clients, I would say. There are certain clients who like to write their blog posts as though they are writing descriptive essays. So they try not to use those keywords very often. They might be using abbreviations. They like to use like different words. So there is those kind. So they are not ranking for those keywords, which they don't realize. You need to have like the good ratio of the length of your text and how many times you are repeating or explaining about those keywords throughout your entire blog post. So for those people who try to stuff everything in, it's definitely not a good idea, because what they don't realize is then Google has developed their algorithm to be so intelligent, because so many people are doing that and trying to cheat the algorithm. So what happens is they have upgraded their algorithm, their system, that they'll be able to detect if you're overdoing it. So, it's like in school, you have this teachers walking around during exam time trying to see if you're trying to cheat. So they have those in place. So if you're doing it deliberately, they will be able to tell. So they might not be able to tell immediately, but then when they upgrade their system and then they're scanning your website, and then you suddenly see this drop, and you know you have been doing things you're not supposed to do, that's when their rankings will be harmed. But most people, like if they're not aware about how SEO actually works, they might be lured into this claims. Some people would tell them, oh, you're going to get really ranking very high if you actually do that. So they don't realize the opposite end of how clever Google has been over the last few years.
Yeah, nice. And you also mentioned YouTube as well, right?
Yes.
When it comes to YouTube and I guess the technicalities to kind of rank organically higher, it's very similar to Google, like SEO in a sense. Like, would you take some of those principles into YouTube itself?
Yeah. So there are two parts. One is ranking on YouTube page one, and the other thing is if your YouTube channel has grown to a significant size and you have significant engagement. When I talk about significant size, I'm looking at nearing about 1,000 subscribers at least. So you're getting a decent number of views, at least like 100 views, 100 to 200, 300 views per video. And what happens is if you're actually using those right keywords for your YouTube videos, they might appear on Google search too. Nice. So this is something that, people will have to take into account. But if you're a new channel, you have 0 subscribers, even if you're using the right keywords, your video might not necessarily rank, but over time, as you grow your channel, you're growing your engagement, then you will be ranking on Google as well. So it's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And I feel that this is very powerful in driving or getting people from search results. Yeah, it's such a long tail approach, huh? Like when you talk about SEO, when you talk to businesses, even large as well. I talk to a lot of large enterprise businesses, and they talk about SEO. They talk about similar to paid media. Oh, can't we just get it ranked quicker? It's like, well, no, because there's a lot of technical aspects to it. Like, is there duplicate content happening? Do you have the metadata description? Are you adding canonical tagging? Is your sitemap up to date? There's all these kind of small technical aspects of it that a lot of even big businesses haven't really realized yet. And like the bigger the business is, even though you might have the resources around you and the money around you to kind of potentially solve the problem, because you've built up hundreds of pages over time, having to go back and fix those pages is just it's almost a nightmare type of scenario in comparison to say a small business. Very similar. No, definitely, for sure.
Definitely. Hey, so we're just finishing up. So for all my guests, I always try to get them to provide some advice, right? And for you, as a marketer, as a strategist for small businesses, particularly, what advice would you give to small businesses where time and money is quite short, but they recognize that marketing activity is really important? What some advice would you give to them?
Definitely, you should be focusing on search for middle and long term. Of course, you should build your social media platforms, but choose wisely. You don't have to be everywhere, because if your resources are really thinly spread, it's much better to focus on the 1 or 2 platforms that is where your potential customers are hanging out. That's one thing to build your presence. And if you could get onto perhaps some of these media sites, depending if you are, let's say you're an e-commerce store, getting to some media sites would also help in your SEO as well. Because if you're getting onto those media inquiries which have very large presence, then what happens is that link to your website is going to help a little bit in your ranking. So what I recognize is that's good. And then as well, media sites, it depends on for example, like one of my recent clients, So because they are based in Singapore, so if they are based in Singapore, they should be looking at lifestyle publication, big lifestyle publication that's going to help them to in their rankings. Let's say, for example, I think Condé Nast, is that Condé Nast? The travel lifestyle magazine, yeah. So that's the one. So actually getting like a link from there, and then getting from like Time Out as well. Yep. So that's like they're very established site. So what happens is their authority, Google sees them as trustworthy. So if they're linking to your website in some form or another, even if you have paid for a link or something, so that's still considered by association, you are trustworthy. So that's actually a good thing to have. If you have that extra little budget, that would help. But at the same time, do think about getting your website on Google, submitting those sitemap. I think that's of priority. So don't neglect that. Yeah.
Nice. Anything else?
Yes, I would say marketing, getting on Google and YouTube is something that all businesses should be focusing on, even if it's like a middle or long-term strategy, because that's the one way you're going to get clients who are more likely to become customers. Because those people from search, they are searching for answers. They want an answer to their question. So when they decide that you are giving them the right answer, then they're going to buy from you. So that's the audience you want to be targeting for your long term if you want to continuously generate leads from your marketing budget.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much. I know some of those advice, like it works. I've done it myself. It just takes time. Miracles don't happen overnight. It does take time, and just putting in the hard work and effort coming through, which is really important. So, Clarence, thank you so much. For anyone who wants to reach out to you, what are the best channels to reach out to you?
I have my website at claricelin.com, so they can check out the website. I have an awesome blog post written there. So if you want to get on page 1, you can check that out. I can also be found on LinkedIn, Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel as well. So do check that out. I think, so nice. There will be useful resources for anyone who wants to get on a Google or YouTube page 1. So do check out those resources.
Nice. And for anyone who's watching or listening, I'll put them in the show notes below. So Clarice, thank you so much for coming on the show. And for everyone else, big thank you. And I'll see you on the next show.